Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where we're about to have a very interesting conversation. I know some of you in the comments section down below will be delighted. I ain't afraid to have it. Yes, we're talking about the undeniable growth of the conservative audience in the domestic marketplace. We gotta have this conversation. The numbers are staring us right in the face. And we're gonna talk about how Hollywood, I think, how I would recommend they handle it, or pivot, let's say. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts as well. I'm sure I will hear them, but I invite everyone to sound off on what Hollywood should do about something that, again, as I said at this point, is undeniable. I was going to mention it later on, but I'll say it right now. As Michael Jordan so famous or infamously said, depending on your position, Republicans buy sneakers too. And I think that clearly goes the same for movie tickets. All right, so first off, the big Hollywood headline, and that's the Beetlejuice is a big hit domestic. It's a big hit domestic with a very strong hold in its second weekend, especially since it opened so big. To still only drop in the 50th percentile is very nice. And in just 2 weeks, it's already in the top 10 films of the year. I mean, we're not up to full strength again still after the pandemic, but, this is very nice for domestic. And again, with no real competition until Joker 2, it has 2 more weekends to make some real cash. Trick or treat indeed. Put some money in here. All right, but just like with Twisters, where the heck is the overseas box office? They didn't put no candy out over there. See, for most movies, domestic box office counts for just 35 to 45% of the worldwide total. Sure, North America delivers the biggest chunk of money, but the world is a big place with a lot of other countries out there. And while they deliver small numbers, you put them all together, it's a lot of money. Only China has been able to challenge the size of the North American box office, but again, that also hasn't been the same since the pandemic. A couple of breakouts here and there, but still, it ain't like it used to be. And as we discussed, Hollywood gets very little of that money, etc. Now, Twister's domestic box office makes up for 72% of its worldwide total, and Beetlejuice is around the same. Why aren't these movies appealing to a global audience? I'm going to share my theories, but of course, for those of you who are overseas, I know there are many of you, what do you say? What do you say? Because, you are there. You are the audience. Why are you going or not going or your fellow countrymen going to see these films? Now, on that note, one of you pointed out that Twisters, first of all, largely happen only in North America. They have a couple rogue ones all over the globe, but for the most part, it's really an American thing. And the first movie also benefited from the Spielberg-Michael Crichton connection coming out just a few years after Jurassic Park, and director Jan de Bont was coming off of Speed. So those, many people felt the Twister, the first movie, would be an extension of those very popular films. But this new movie does not have that same blockbuster pedigree. As for Beetlejuice, is Halloween not as big a deal overseas? You're blowing my mind. I Googled it, and it seems that is true. I think globally Halloween is appreciated, but it's not commercialized like it is here, where it's become dark Christmas. And I find that fascinating. But maybe we should put a pin on making more Halloween movies after all, or bring those budgets down, because they only seem to do well domestic. Mexico celebrates Dia de los Muertos, but that has its very own specific vibe. The juice ain't juicing over anywhere outside of North America and Canada. But global audiences do like to be scared, and it's overseas box office that is saving Alien Romulus. For those, a lot of people, I'm making a lot of people happy today. I would say I feel a little better about its box office this weekend. It's now in striking distance of Apes. And those, of course, the 2 Disney Fox movies of the summer. And Alien Romulus had an extremely nice hold this weekend. Such a nice hold that it makes me feel totally different about the movie. Not totally different, but now I'm like, oh, you're looking kind of sexy there, Alien Romulus. I mean, and also, this is making me feel that the movie just has to be discovered. Because again, it's a great movie. I loved it. It's one of my favorite movies of the year so far. And wouldn't it be nice if people continue to discover it, not only in theaters, but very soon on digital and then on Disney Plus and Hulu. Maybe we'll find that it dominates there. And again, as I said, it's a great movie. It deserves to. So if I were a Disney exec at this point, I see a glimmer of hope. So I wait and see those digital Disney Plus Hulu numbers and also for the upcoming FX show before I made a decision about what to do with the franchise. I'd be like, maybe there's something here after all. All right, what's that there's something there, that Beauty and the Beast song? Let's sing about alien Romulus. Hello, face hugger. I see you across the box office. All right, now let's talk about the elephant in the room. 4 of the top 10 films are distinctly conservative. Matt Walsh's documentary, which is the Daily Wire's first theatrical release, debuting at number 4. The audience scores to this documentary are quite strong, but that's most likely because only really enthusiastic people went to see it. There wasn't a lot of curiosity viewing. I mean, if you went to see it, you probably were going to like it. However, the movie did satisfy almost $5 million worth of moviegoers. There was no buy a ticket for someone else campaign like with Angel Studios' Sound of Freedom. So small but noticeable audience, and they were made happy by the movie. Reagan, in its 3rd weekend, is still in the top 5. The Forge, a faith-based film, is in its 4th weekend and also holding up. And then there's God's Not Dead, In God We Trust. That's a lot of God. That's such a blockbuster type title for that movie. But that opened at number 10. So again, the first movie is from the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's company. Reagan is from a new distributor called Showbiz Direct, which was founded by an ex-Lionsgate and Open Road executives. I'm not sure what their political leanings are, although if they picked up Reagan, I think you can kind of guess, and star Dennis Quaid has been pretty clear where he stands. The Forge is the only movie here that's from a major Hollywood studio, Sony, and they've been dabbling in faith-based films for a while now. And God's Not Dead, this new one, is a Fathom event. So basically, you've got a solid chunk of weekend ticket sales, I'm looking at them, right, that are going outside of Hollywood. So the big question now becomes, is Hollywood going to let that happen? Continue to let that happen? I mean, really, this should be a wake-up call. Like, uh-oh, we've lost a considerable amount of the marketplace to outside fringe groups. Let's bring it back in. So that's what I want to discuss. Now, of course, nobody is saying that Hollywood needs to start making extreme right-wing content, but perhaps there's a marketplace for more neutral, conservative-friendly content. Why wasn't Horizon better marketed to this audience? Were they really that upset about Kevin Costner quitting Yellowstone, or was it not marketed properly? Why not reach out to churches and the like for a movie particularly like Horizon to promote content that is inclusive to conservatives? I also think Young Woman in the Sea would have done very well with conservative audiences if Disney had done anything to promote it. Are you a conservative viewer, moviegoer? Like, what movies this year from Hollywood proper have you enjoyed? I'd be very curious. Let's do some market research. Hollywood has proclaimed that streaming has killed the mid-range movie, but yet I'm looking at a lot of mid-range movies right here, mid-range to small, and they're making money. I mean, clearly conservatives would like to go to the theater. They want to go to the theater. You just have to get them the right film. So why not bring back sports dramas, biopics, book adaptations, and of course, religious stories that don't aggressively target conservatives, but are conservative friendly. I think that kind of movie used to be made and did quite well. And I think that, would be palatable to Hollywood and other audiences in addition to conservatives. Now, are today's conservatives, you might counter that today's conservatives are only interested in hateful and or extremist content. And it might seem that way sometimes, but we got to start digging in. Because, again, these numbers, they're right in our faces. So we got to start digging in. And I'm starting to think, as I look at this, that it might be because of how divided we are. That Hollywood has basically said to a lot of conservatives that they don't want them. And, not only with some of the content, but also the aggressive comments that are being made in promoting that content by Hollywood talent and executives that we've seen discussed. Kamala Harris is embracing a moderate platform, promising to be president for all Americans and adopting some conservative-leaning policies. And perhaps Hollywood should be like, oh, hey, that's pretty interesting. Maybe we should follow suit and make an effort to make content for all moviegoers. Now, there will always be small niche films that aren't meant to appeal to everyone, but perhaps Hollywood should be making more of a variety of niche films. As for blockbusters, clearly Inside Out 2, Deadpool and Wolverine, Super Mario Bros., and Top Gun Maverick were all embraced by conservative audiences. Heck, even as I said last week, conservative audiences or conservative fanboys have championed Alien Romulus, even with its diverse cast, and that's important to note. I think when you look at this top 10 and those other movies, it is clear, again, as I said, that conservative audiences have become formidable. And again, as Michael Jordan said, Republicans buy sneakers too, and movie tickets. Just as we're seeing Latino audiences for the first time match the turnout and sometimes top the turnout of Caucasian audiences, and able to change the fortunes of Hollywood films. For example, Super Mario Bros., huge Latino turnout. And while the Latino turnout for Matt Walsh's film was lower than the Caucasian turnout, it was still the second biggest turnout, and a lot of Latinos are conservative. If Hollywood doesn't capture this audience, it will be captured by more extreme content creators. The same mistake that mainstream news has made. Again, under no circumstances should toxic and hateful positions be tolerated. But perhaps totally cutting off these groups is not the answer either, as how can we possibly move forward, which is clearly what so many of us want to do. If I were a Hollywood development executive looking at this top 10 in the world that we find ourselves in now, I would start looking for wholesome fare. Although it's worth noting that It's a Wonderful Life was not a huge success when it was first released. And the FBI, in fact, accused it of using communist tactics because of the villainous portrayal of Mr. Potter. But at least the movie was made, and look at all the good it has gone on to do, embraced by all. What books, biographies, etc. do you think might be an olive branch to conservatives that Hollywood can feel good about making? You know, I think there's a lot of content out there. I'm thinking back to films like Seabiscuit, to Pollyanna. So many movies made over the years that they're not making anymore. And I think, just like we're seeing a movement to bring voters together, hopefully, from the Democrats this election cycle, I think Hollywood might want to consider that going forward, as they have significant problems box office-wise. It's a conversation that's interesting, delicate, surprising to be having, but again, these numbers are looking us right in the face, and I'd be interested from hearing from everybody on this, because we're all in the same box office. We're all in the same box office boat. All right. So there were two other new movies that were released this weekend. Speak No Evil opened at a soft number 2. Scooch better than what was projected, but not significantly. Not as big as other recent horror films. And I'm not surprised. I saw the movie. I didn't even bother to review it. Just wait a minute. But the film doesn't offer up much more than the trailer. You're like, yep, exactly what I thought was going to happen happened. And they're like, well, now you saw it. However, building on the conversation we just had, James McAvoy has said that he based his villainous character on toxic male influencers. Yet at the same time, Scoot McNairy's character is a pretty serious condemnation of quote-unquote beta males. His wife had to save him an awful lot of times. Even I was like, after a while, I was like, geez Louise, I think his character's name was Ben. I was like, Ben, you gotta start pulling your weight here. Neither of these points, though, is made particularly strong in the film. So the film ends up just kind of like being very soft in its commentary. It kind of just is. You're like, what are you saying here? And the movie's like, what do you think I'm saying? And you're like, but no, what are you saying? And the film's like, just keeps throwing it back to you. And I think that weak position kind of hurts the film. The only real reason to see it is James McAvoy, who, as always, does a phenomenal job. Then Lionsgate had yet another epic box office disaster. My goodness, how many can they have? Oh, we're going to find out. Megalopolis is coming. But anyway, this weekend, it was The Killer's Game. Why was this even released in theaters with this cast? I mean, it's clearly a streaming film. Digital, but really straight to streaming. I mean, that looks like a Netflix movie. But Megalopolis, will that be Lionsgate's biggest bomb of the year? Maybe ever. Or maybe it'll be a surprise hit. We don't know. We'll find out in just 2 weeks. I keep writing them for press screenings because, pretty much people have only seen it at the festival so far. And I'm like, I want to see this thing. I do plan to review. Lionsgate is in real trouble. They had wanted desperately to be acquired, but now it's looking like they might have a fire sale of IP post-bankruptcy. the John Wick ballerina spinoff this next summer, and a new Hunger Games movie in 2026 are their real only hope going forward, and we'll see if they can survive that long. This is a very bad run. I don't think you'd be hard pressed to see this many flops in a row from any distributor. I guess in some ways it's a little impressive. Whoa. I mean, clearly they should be like, who's greenlighting these movies? And that person's like at lunch, like not in the office. All right, as for streaming, starting with Nielsen for mid-August, they skipped a week. Nielsen. Anyway, Netflix, because they were off the counter because of Labor Day weekend, and then because of the debate and stuff, so they just skipped a week. All right, so Netflix's final season of The Umbrella Academy and new movie The Union at this point in time posted nice numbers, but neither one could top old episodes of Prison Break, available on both Netflix and Hulu. There's Emily in Paris towards the bottom with the debut of the first part of season 4. And interestingly, while House of the Dragon was #1 in the overall chart the week of its season 2 finale 2 weeks ago, remember Nielsen skipped a week, here we are 2 weeks later, and it's nowhere to be seen on the overall chart or even on the acquired chart where there's less competition. Yet Game of Thrones is here for some reason. So where is the binge bump? Meanwhile, on the originals chart, The Boys is still enjoying a binge bump weeks after its season 4 wrapped. So that, I think, is not great for House of the Dragon. I hope they fix season 3 because, season 1 was so good. And season 2, I had fun watching it, but, corrections need to be made. With movies, it seems digital-first releases are killing recent films by the time they get to streaming because, people have already seen them for the most part. And viewers seem to prefer on streaming platforms films made for those platforms or the chance to discover or rediscover older films. I guess that's fine because digital releases generate revenue. And if, streaming services are looking to combat churn and get new subscribers, then the shows can handle that. Are they handling it? I'll be curious to see if Inside Out 2, Deadpool and Wolverine, or maybe even Horizon move the needle when they hit their respective streaming services. Horizon will be we should see Horizon's numbers next week. We'll keep an eye on this. I think that those are movies that people will want to watch on the streaming services. How about you? When do you watch movies? Do you pay for digital or do you hold out for streaming service, no extra cost? I mean, if you're not already subscribed, then it's not free, no extra cost, because you'd have to resubscribe. Or do you sail the 7 seas? Arr. Over on Netflix, for those of you who are rooting for Aaron Pierre to be James Gunn's Jon Stewart in Lanterns, and I see a number of you rooting for that, Rebel Ridge's success might help that happen. However, Pierre also voices Mufasa in Disney's upcoming live-action Lion King sequel. So Pierre could have a lot of options opening up for him. So would he want to go to DC if he has other opportunities? DC has been such bad luck for a lot of talent recently. They might find it, James Gunn, even though he's supposed to be offering a new chapter, people might want to wait and see how the first couple forays go before signing on. I think Star Wars is having a similar issue in signing talent up. Maybe even, I think because of the way some elements of the fandom react, I think you're seeing talent start to become more wary about entering this space. Unless, you would think maybe unless it's for a slam dunk like Joker, but look how Joker 2 might potentially end up hurting Lady Gaga. So we'll see who Matt Reeves ends up being able to sign for the Batman Part 2 as that starts to come together. All right, so The Deliverance also went up significantly in its first full week on Netflix. More proof that Lee Daniels knows how to deliver. He really has an impressive run. Empire. He's of course had his awards phase, but I think Empire still continues to be his crown jewel. Just such a huge success. Then on iTunes, Twisters is at least doing well here, very well in fact. Back at #1, it's not even on sale. While Friday the 13th, the franchise, took advantage of Friday the 13th, the day. It was Friday the 13th on Friday. The original Beetlejuice is also still doing well on digital. Inside Out 2 as well, although I suspect most people are waiting, as we just discussed, for Inside Out 2 to hit Disney+, which it does very soon on September 25th. I actually want to see that movie again, and I, in fact, am also waiting for it to hit Disney+. I'm already paying for Disney+, so it's not churning for me. I'm ready to go. Again, I'd be interested to hear how you ride the wave with these recent releases. And even on digital, though, audiences aren't interested in Lionsgate's Crow remake. I think it's going to be hard for Billy Skarsgård to recover from this. He was doing so good when he was the clown from It, Pennywise. But things just haven't worked out for him. Oh, well. All right, so it's interesting. He's had a heck of a lot of chances. All right, he picked some crappy projects, though. Maybe that's all he was getting. It's rough out there. All right, as for this coming week, Transformers 1, Badassatron. I saw it. My review will go up this week. I saw it on Saturday, yesterday, at the early fan screening. And I loved that line. I could hear that. I could never get tired of hearing it. All right, so that's coming out. That's the big Hollywood release. And Lionsgate will try again with Halle Berry's Never Let Go. Will audiences be eager to see her again right after Netflix's The Union, which again posted good numbers? But maybe, though, on the other hand, the movies might be too close together and people might feel they already just saw Halle Berry. We'll see. Wolves also hits theaters, but for just 1 week before becoming available on Apple TV+. Another inexplicable business move from Apple. They're like, what can we, it seems like spending $200 million on these movies isn't embarrassing enough. And Lionsgate, they seem to be out embarrassing us. I know. Let's just have it on screens for a week. George Clooney said he was very disappointed at the film festival when they asked him about it, but he still got his check. All right, and Superman opens in very limited release for just 2 days, the first and not in a row, which is interesting. Speaking of interesting business choices, this is a Fathom event, and it plays just like 2 showtimes a day, I think 4 and 7 o'clock in a couple of theaters this Saturday, September 21st, and I think the next day is September 25th. I guess they're thinking that's going to do best on Max down the line. All right, as for streaming movies, on Friday, Netflix has His Three Daughters. Now with shows, here's where things get a little more interesting. The Emmys are tonight. Oh boy, I'm not only going to be live tweeting the ceremony as I usually do with awards shows, but join me right after the show at 11:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a live reaction and breakdown of the winners. We're going to have a party. It'll be so much fun. Shogun is expected to make Emmy history. Oh, I'm rooting for it. I love that show. See, I might have been late to the party on it, but I'm here, and the party's still going. Although some people are only now like, what do you mean a season 2? Don't ruin the party. We're having a good time. Season 2 of Tulsa King also started today. Dancing with the Stars is back on Tuesday. And then we've got not only a new Marvel show this week, but also a DC show. Back to back! Just for this week, though, for some reason. Because Penguin is going to start on Thursday before it switches to Sunday. Next Sunday. Like 10 days later. More stupid business decisions. All right, so on Wednesday evening, they're both night drops. At 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Agatha All Along starts on Wednesday, and The Penguin starts the very next day at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do prefer the night drops for these shows. I think it helps them with social media. Full coverage for both. My Penguin review is already up. Also on Thursday, Zack Snyder's animated Twilight of the Gods is on Netflix. Frasier is back on Paramount+. A new Very Royal Scandal is on Prime Video, and Netflix also has the next Ryan Murphy monster installment, this time about the Menendez brothers. Will it be as big a hit as Dahmer? Ryan Murphy, he's solid. He's so prolific. I don't know if you could say that he doesn't make lightning strike all the time, but he's a veritable lightning storm. Then finally, he gets a lot of lightning strikes. Then finally on Friday, this is interesting, Apple TV has France's La Maison, which is in French, but it's like Succession in the fashion world. And it stars Lambert Wilson, who a lot of us know. So, subtitled content, doing particularly well. Spanish language and Korean language, Japanese, Shogun is very largely subtitled. So let's see if France can get in here too, baby. And that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And what do you think of the growing conservative hold on the box office? What would you do as a Hollywood executive? Share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.